Okay, it is 6 p.m. on January 10th, 2022, and I'm going to call this meeting of the Chelmsford Select Board to order. Would you please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first up we have
Kathy.
Mr. Latina, could you mute yourself, please?
It's too bad I gotta have that off.
I'll just mute him. Okay, first up is our public service announcements.
So the first public service announcement we have is nomination papers for the April 5th, 2022 local election are now available at the town clerk's office for the following positions. Townwide offices, we have 2 select board members for 3 years, 2 school committee members for 3 years, 2 planning board members for 3 years, 1 board of health member for 3 years, 2 trustees of the public library for 3 years, 1 cemetery commission for 3 years, 1 housing authority member for 5 years.
Ken, you're in the wrong place. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong one.
Sorry. For town meeting members, to bring the full vote for the election of 165 town meeting members, 15 representatives in precincts 1 through 11 for terms based on election results as stated as the charter as follows. The first third in order of votes received shall serve for 3 years. The second third of such order shall serve for 2 years, and the remaining third of such order shall serve for 1 year from the date of the annual town election. They're doing this due to the redistricting. So if you don't know your district, please look it up before you head down, because we no longer have 9 districts, and they did renumber them. What's that?
Precincts.
Precincts, and they did renumber them. The last day to obtain nomination papers is Friday, February 11, 2022 at 5 p.m. from the clerk's office. The second public service announcement we have is there is a Moderna COVID booster clinic, January 18th, 2022, 2 to 6 p.m. at the Chelmsford Town Hall Gym, this building downstairs, 50 Billerica Road. You park in the rear by the baseball fields. Registration's required. You can follow the link on the town website at www.chelmsfordma.gov, or you can go to the Chelmsford Board of Health website. There's a link there. Masks are required. To be eligible, you got to be 18 years or older and at least 6 months after completing your first COVID-19 vaccination series. Bring your insurance card, your vaccination card, and wear a short-sleeved shirt. And I was told by the Board of Health today that if you have any problems with it, you can call them directly for help on the phone at 978-250-5241.
Okay, and I believe the assessors would also like to make a public service announcement. We have Frank Green in the Zoom room.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, Madam Chair. The taxpayers should have received the third quarter bills by now. Anyone who has not received that should give the assessors a call at 978-250-5220 or the collector's office at 978-250-5210. The bills contain the FY22 assessed values, which are based on the sales activity of calendar 2020. When taxpayers are reviewing their assessed value, if they feel the value I've placed on their home is greater than the market value, then they can appeal that value by filing an application for abatement with this office to be filed no later than February 1st, 2022. Forms are available at the town's website. On the assessor's webpage, town website is townofchelmsford.us. Or if they feel free, they can contact me and I'll mail something out to them. I'll mail the application for abatement out and we'll talk to them about their assessed value as well. In every bill that was mailed out in December, we place an additional slip, which information about personal exemption offered by the town. These relate to elderly and veterans, and there are guidelines associated with them. I would urge all residents to review the exemption information and see if they or someone they know might qualify. Residents can feel free to give me a call to discuss these with myself or any of my staff. Again, I would just urge taxpayers. I know some values went up pretty dramatically given the activity of calendar 2020. I would urge residents to take a look at it, and feel free to give me a call to talk about it, or file an application for abatement with this office. That gives us an opportunity to review their parcel specifically and see if we've maybe missed something, and it's certainly something we can discuss. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Frank. That takes us to the public input session of our agenda. Does anyone have any public input? Okay, I'm not seeing any in the room. Oh, well, Brian Latina. If you could just remember to please state your name and address for the record.
Here we go. Brian Latina, 15 Jesse Road, Chelmsford. I'm beginning to wonder if I'm in the city of Chelmsford rather than the town of Chelmsford. I did get my tax bill, and I know that they're based on market value now. I'm just hoping the market doesn't continue going up, because retirees won't be able to afford Chelmsford in a few years, based on the excess buying frenzy that went on last year. Part of the reason for my talk this evening to the board is regarding the topic of residential communication goals. I know that there's always been some concern that the residents haven't been fully communicated with through the administration. I had some very upset people Christmas regarding ice on the road. Prior to that, holes in the pavement in my precinct that weren't being taken care of right away. Blocked storm drains when I have a whole new stormwater department. Most recent, the last snowfall, some very upset people that we didn't have snow plowing done on a quick basis. Personally, I think we saved some money. A lot of times we overplow, but these are some of the calls that I had, and that mixed in with the current new tax bills did upset some folks. Regarding communication in my precinct, over here near the 65-acre district that we have zoned and rezoned and tried to get businesses to move in, we put in we're in the process of putting in a huge chemical plant in terms of chemistry that has never been near a residential area. And my neighbors are still not aware that we have a plant going in. It was considered a minor addition to the building, although they added what appears to be 2 floors to the building, including girders and heavy equipment on the roof of the building, very near residential areas, and I believe within 300 feet of a housing complex that was put in a few years ago. And many of the people in my neighborhood don't know about it yet. I assume that as soon as they start it up and they realize there's 86,000 gallons of acetone in that minor addition, they'll be very upset. And now I'm told that we're building we may rezone and build a 200,000 square foot warehouse off of Riverneck Road after some sort of zoning allowance was made to warehouse in our town. I've moved in and out of 46 warehouses similar to this over the course of the entire United States over the last 10 years. In fact, in 2010, I moved out of a 200,000 square foot building in New Jersey. This is what is being proposed on Riverneck Road. The town of Chelmsford does not want that. I can guarantee you do not want that.
Brian, you got 30 seconds.
1 minute, Mr. Latina.
Yep. It doesn't lend itself well to other businesses that may want to come into town. It doesn't lend itself to a good view of what Chelmsford is. It looks like North Jersey, which is where I moved this other building out of. 200,000 square feet is huge. I have a friend going up into North Dakota, and they're adding 8 warehouses in that facility for computer equipment
is there
build
something?
Bitcoin.
Is there any anything specific you want to wrap up on that you want us to consider with respect to the communications, which is, I think, what you brought up?
Yep. These communication skills that we do not have anymore, we used to have them, are not passing this information along,
Okay.
Madam Chair. And although I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to speak publicly, 3 minutes is kind of a arbitrary free speech approach in the digital world we're in, where we can't meet in person anymore. The communications that this allows is very limited. And my feeling is that we can do better in Chelmsford. I appreciate your time. And I hope that at some point we can be back in person and we get to a more reasonable approach to communicating with our residents that live in these areas that are being developed at an alarming rate for me. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will take that under advisement when we talk about the communications objective. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak during public input? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so we'll go to committee vacancies.
So for January 10th, 2022, the following committee vacancies are currently available. The Arts and Technology Education Fund is looking to fill one 3-year term. Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee has one unexpired 3-year term and one 3-year term available. CCA Advisory Committee has 2 1-year terms available. Center Village Master Plan Implementation Committee is looking to fill one 1-year term. Commissions on Disability has one unexpired 3-year term. The Community Action Program Committee is looking to fill 3 1-year terms. The Council on Aging has one unexpired 3-year term, one 3-year term, and 5 associate member positions staggered over a 3-year period. Cultural Council, 2 seats available, 3-year terms. Holiday Decorating Committee, 2 seats for 1-year terms. The Parade Committee accepts all applicants to 1-year terms ending July 31st of each year. Public Celebrations Committee has 5 1-year terms. Recycling Committee has 1 1-year term. Tree Committee has 1 unexpired 3-year term and 1 3-year term. If you're interested in serving on a town board or committee, please complete an online application available at the town website. For more information, you can contact the town manager's office at 50 Billerica Road here in Chelmsford, or you can send an email to tmoffice@chelmsfordma.gov, call the office at 978-250-5202, or stop in.
Thank you, Ken. That takes us to the public hearings. The first is for the Class 2 auto dealer license for J&S Auto Shop. Do we have anyone here from J&S Auto Shop? Hello.
Hey,
Do you want to say a little bit about what you're trying to do?
I mean, it's just simple, just having the ability to buy cars and sell. It's nothing major. I mean, I spoke with the town manager, the department, building department about.
I'm sorry, we need your name and address for the
Oh.
record.
Sorry, Sadek El Saidi, 38 Fairfield Street, Lowell, Mass.
Thank you.
And it's pretty much to be able to buy and sell vehicles. It's nothing major. We requested only for 5 cars.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions? And you brought the green cards with you?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did give it
Okay.
to him, yes.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Pat.
I have a question. On the application, under number 5, where it says, if an association or corporation state full names and residential addresses of the principal officers, and the address you list is the business address.
So which address am I supposed to put in there?
I think it's where you live.
Okay, all right, yeah, so I've had problems with the application, so I could definitely fix
It's
that.
listed later on under
Right,
residence.
right, I know that, but
Right,
yeah. I don't know, if somebody's looking for it there at where it says that. And the only other thing I have, and this is probably more between you and your landlord than us, but on your lease, I noticed that it says, the use of the leased premises may be used and occupied as an auto mechanic repair business and for no other purposes. So, is your landlord aware that you're
Yes.
changing to say?
Yeah,
Okay.
so he doesn't want cars like having numbers on them and people coming in, but being able to, let's say, I fixed the car, I bought it, I fixed it, and then posted it somewhere, and not one person comes in for a specific car, then yes, that's okay, as long as it's not like it's open where people come in and look at cars like shopping, and that's not the case. It's just like an extra leverage to being able to kind of make a little bit more money, buying cars from the auction and selling them, and it's not going to be like major thing. It's focused on pretty much like small cars or cheap cars.
Okay, yeah, like I said, it's fine with me. I just, wouldn't want you to get in trouble with your landlord.
No, he's fully aware of that.
Okay. That's all I have.
Do you have any questions, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I drove down there and took a look at the property and drove around the building, and I'm just curious, like, there's a lot of debris outside the building. There's a boat up on tires and trash, and is any of that yours?
No.
My concern was the outside of the building didn't look too well kept in those bays around it, and so
In unit 13 and 14?
yeah, right at your end. Right near, the boat's right up against the bushes there, and then,
So that has nothing to do with me. So mine is I have 13 and 14. Mine is the front, and then the front of the building. Anything else around me, it's with whoever's there, because it's a commercial property. So there's more than one business located in that area. Mainly used for like warehouses and things like that. So there's not really, I can't do anything. It's out of my control. So
yep.
none of those are mine.
Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's no more questions from the board, I will open it up for anyone from the public who has questions or comment. Mr. Latina, is your hand raised for this, or is it left over from the last?
Yeah, it was left over.
I'm going to assume it's left over. Okay.
Oh, I have one more question. So
Well,
you're
yes.
saying,
That's okay, we can
Yeah.
still talk.
you're saying that there will not be any lettering on the signs? You're not going to be doing any advertising out on the main street?
No.
And there won't be any numbers on cars?
No.
And all of the cars that for sale will be on the other side, the back bay, side of the bay?
It depends, whatever I have space available. Mainly, I'm gonna focus on the front, or the way it's gonna work is, if, let's say I had a car up for sale and somebody on Marketplace wants to look at it, I'll make sure that when they come in, they stay in the office, I go to the back, grab the car, park it in the front, and then put a plate on it so they can take it for a spin. That's the way I'm kind of focused on it.
Was there a diagram?
Yeah. And then when they apply for the dealer's license themselves through the state, they'll come in and walk through and make sure that it's set up as two separate businesses inside and do all that, right?
Well, sir, in response to the answer you just gave to Board Member LaFave, on the drawing here, it says that there are designated spots for the sales, and they'll be in the back, and that the front parking is for customers.
Yeah. I mean, it's mainly the front and the back, depends where I have available. But the focus is gonna be the back and the front.
Okay, but your license says you're going to park them in the back, your application.
Okay.
I think the reason why I asked that question was there was some concern. I did receive 2 phone calls from people that are in there saying there's just no parking for you to
Okay.
put 5 cars in between you and, say, the other building. And when I saw this, I said, well, it doesn't matter, he's gonna put the cars in the back. And they said, well, as long as they're in the back, that's fine, but there's not enough space for him to put 5 cars plus another 5 of his own out in between you and the other building. You know what I mean? And I drove it, and all the spots seemed to be full, and I was like, well, I think they're right, so.
Well, it's gonna get, emptied out. It's probably cars that waiting to get fixed. Those are gonna be, taken care of if the dealer license, goes through, so. Everything is still in the process. If there's anything I need to do or focus or work on, it'll be great for me to know.
I'm good.
Okay, one last time, anybody from the public? If not, I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Any more discussion?
I mean, I'm not, I get torn on this because, this, you see 3A, there, and then you head up north towards Tingsboro, and we have a lot of used cars lots, and I don't want to be a used car lot central, for the area. And we had a used car lot that went in Namco right next to the Mako right there, and they didn't survive, so just get nervous. We do have car lots that aren't surviving, and we're going to put another one in. But it's not like a car lot with the sign out front and numbers on the windows.
Right.
So that's a different twist.
And are you okay if they're restricting the parking for the cars that are for sale in the back, like the license says?
Yeah, I mean, I am. And
Okay.
I'm just going to warn you, if we get any complaints from the other unit owners around you, the building inspector's going to be out there.
100%.
And if he's in violation, we pull him in, right?
I'm not, yeah, honestly, I just want to make sure I'm doing everything right by the book. If there's anything that I need to fix or take care of, I'm happy to take advice from everybody. I'm only 20, 20 years old. I'm just trying to make something. So if I don't know too much about what goes on, what happens, or what I need to know, but I'm slowly learning it. So if there's anything I need to know, I'll be happy to listen.
Well, my advice to you then is keep the area clean.
Yes, 100%.
Don't let the cars get run down, sit out there. Don't let fluids leak out of them. If we get calls from your neighbors, the building inspector's going to be out there and we can pull your license, so. We've had other problems.
Understandable.
Yep, where the building inspector went up to other locations and they got fined, too many cars sitting around, too many marked.
100%.
Just follow the
So
rules.
I will make sure I have my area clean, and as well as, for any people around me, I can't do anything, but I'll make sure my area or, what's available for me is clean.
Okay. Do we need the license, do we need to vote on a modified application with the addresses fixed in section 5?
I think his address is located on there. I mean, Section 5 actually speaks to an association, a corporation. It's really an individual. Or, it's not an.
Okay, so you think he didn't even
Yeah.
need to fill that out?
I didn't even need to fill that out.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
All right, that's fine then.
So you want a motion?
So I would say you just need to make sure what Board Member Lefebvre said, and stay within the parameters of your license.
Sounds good.
And you have to now go to get, this doesn't take care of it, now you have to go get the actual license.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the auto dealer license, Class 3 license for J&S.
Class 2.
Class 2 license for J&S Auto Shop located at 110 Middlesex Street, Unit 13, North Chelmsford, Mass. 01863.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye, 3-0. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck. Okay, next we have a change of manager for the KMP Restaurant Group for Moonstones. Is there anyone here? No?
Yes,
Oh.
yes, I am.
Okay, we have Justin Hayes in the Zoom room.
Hello.
Good evening, Justin. Is there anything you'd like to summarize for the board?
Nope, we're just applying for a change of manager on our liquor license. The license, the person on the license currently is no longer with the company. And we'd just like your approval and then move to the ABCC approval.
Okay,
It looks like there's also a change in hours, or is that?
same question.
No, I had accidentally filled that out when I spoke to Christina Bruce. She was like, you don't want to do that, right? So no, there's no change in hours.
So the hours of 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. are what was in the original license?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and did the town staff sign off on this with that knowledge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the change of manager on the all alcohol beverages restaurant license for KMP Restaurant Group, doing business as Moonstones, exercise on the premise of 185 Chelmsford Street, Chelmsford, Mass.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. You're all set, Justin.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, the next agenda item is the development agreement for the proposed redevelopment of 255 Princeton Street. We do not have a quorum of board members to discuss that or take action on it, so we're going to take no action this evening. So that brings us to agenda item number 8, which is to the town warrant for the February 24th special meeting. And we also have Paul Haverty in the Zoom room, town council. Paul Cohen, is there anything
Yeah.
you'd like to say?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As guided by the board, I prepared a 6-article special town meeting warrant for Thursday, February 24th, at 7:30 PM at the Chelmsford High School Gymnasium at 200 Richardson Road. As the board and the community are aware, the primary purpose of the special town meeting was to address the proposal for the rezoning at the UMass West campus at 255 Princeton Street. That is Article 5 under the warrant as presented this evening and reviewed by town council. Article 6 pertains to that because that would be a request for the request for an appropriation of funding for construction of affordable housing from the Housing Stabilization Fund, Community Preservation Fund, Housing Reserve, and Community Preservation Fund General Reserve at that same location at 255 Princeton Street. In addition to that, we had some other matters that were timely that warranted consideration at this point. The first one, the board's very familiar with. This has to do with the Ledge Road, Esther Drive bus turnaround. We have an article that's been prepared by town council in consultation with the property owner at Esther Drive for an easement to be granted to the town for the construction of a bus turnaround. The next 2 articles are articles that have been brought, the next article is an article that's been brought to the board by John Souza, our finance director here this evening. This is a tax parcel being a consideration of a parcel of .04 acres on 4th Avenue that actually abuts the existing town-owned parcel of land of approximate size. Again, this would be for no consideration, but this is the manner in which the property owner who's reached out to the town, and Mrs. Souza specifically in terms of requesting to donate the parcel of land. There is also a placeholder for a article to fund a collective bargaining agreement. That is a subject matter of your executive session this evening. That would pertain to the dispatchers union. There's an agreement reached at the bargaining table that has been ratified by the union and will be presented for the board's consideration later this evening. And then Article 4, the final article of the 6 that under consideration. This has to do with the ice rink refrigeration system at the Chelmsford Forum. As the board and the community may be aware, the forum had a unscheduled shutdown for a week as a result of a major failure of the ice rink refrigeration system. In order to address the problem long-term, this work really needs to take place during the summer months when the forum is closed, and therefore we're bringing it at this time for consideration, because to bring it in April for consideration at the end of April into May, we just wouldn't allow for that ample time, and we really don't want to change the system either mid-season or try to risk running for an additional season. So, as I mentioned, those are the 6 articles. Again, the warrant's been reviewed by town council, and if there's any questions, I'll answer them for the board.
Any comments or questions?
So Paul, I'd mentioned a couple grammatical things in
Yep.
the zoning. Should I bring those up now, or just talk to Paul?
Yeah, Paul's on the line. You can ask him there. Paul's there. Yeah. Hey, Paul.
Okay. Okay, Paul, on page 4, on 195-151, allowed uses, under by right, it has 2 uses listed, and then under that it has by right with site plan review. And the first one has an A with it, as if it's a subheading, and the second one doesn't. It just looks confusing that there's just that one
There's no B.
designated a little bit differently.
There's no
Yeah.
B.
Well, then you think,
I don't see that there needs to be an A there.
okay.
Okay.
And then on 195-160 landscaping, again, just a grammatical thing, on the first sentence, it says the landscaping will serve to reduce a butter's view. I think the way you have it there, it implies just one abutter. The apostrophe should go on the other side of the S.
I agree.
And 195-161, the last sentence doesn't have a period.
Anything else?
That's all I saw.
Well, and then Pat had noticed there's a couple places where it says Board of Selectmen, so we're just gonna
Yeah.
change that to Select Board.
That was under Article
Okay.
1. That'll correct that, so.
And I would note with the zoning article, it says 2/3 vote, but it actually should be majority vote.
On page 9.
And at the very end, just above where it says Article 6.
Yeah.
So submitted by planning board, under that, it should say majority vote. That's because this is intended to comply with the housing choice legislation, and that reduces the quantum of vote necessary to a majority vote rather than a 2/3 majority.
Great.
So we can vote on this as
Yeah,
amended.
approve the warrant as amended, that would be great.
Any other discussion?
We can just approve the whole thing, right?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the special town meeting warrant for February 24th, 2022 as amended.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Thank you, Paul Haverty.
Do you need me for anything else?
I don't believe so.
All right, good night.
You're good to go.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we're at the American Rescue Plan Act funding requests. You want to introduce what you have here, Paul?
Yeah,
And I just want to mention, we have Finance Director John Souza and Town Accountant Darlene Lucier with us.
okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. As a follow-up to discussion at your last meeting, John really, but we've worked together to revise the planning worksheet to reflect the actions that were taken at the last meeting. So if you go to the first page of the document, it shows the total funding commitments at this point in time, which are 5.756296 from the last meeting of your actions. And then, again, we're trying to keep the numbering system. We then have remaining projects in groupings. The bottom of the first page of the project descriptions pertaining to HVAC facilities. You then move on to the second section. There's another grouping of human services. Then it goes to premium pay. The board had asked that we list out in detail, when specified, the funding requests by the various employment unions and groups. And then there's the water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure, and telemedia. And then on a separate sheet, you have the more detail regarding the premium pay for essential workers in terms of by position, by department. And again, I want to thank John for assembling this data from the materials that have been submitted. The other action that occurred, which is quite significant since the board's last meeting, is last Thursday, the U.S. Treasury Department came out with the final rule, which are the final regulations regarding the American Rescue Plan Act, state and local funding that's been under consideration by the town. And it was a bit of a surprise, but the biggest change that came out of this, in addition to detailed final regulations, which were 400 and some odd pages, and then there was a summary sheet, But the biggest thing to note is that the final regulations provide municipalities with a $10 million standard deduction in terms of for lost revenue under the provisions of the act. And so what that means is that the first $10 million that's available to a municipal government can be expended for any general government purposes, with the notable exception of the named exclusions which are in the policy, meaning that we cannot use the $10 million to pay off pension obligations. But what it's done is it's increased the funding flexibility under the American Rescue Plan Act considerably, and I think it was in response to a lot of feedback that they were receiving from cities and towns in terms of other types of infrastructure and uses of monies that would be helpful to help communities recover. When that arrived, I notified the board of the regulations. The Mass Municipal Association also issued a breaking news bulletin on this case. It is quite significant. Not that I think it results in any reconsideration of the commitments that you've made in terms of the air quality, health, and concerns that you've considered thus far to date. But I think it does give pause and perhaps a step back going forward, because now what they basically, you're in a situation where the government is now providing $10 million of funding. In our case, it was 10.6, but we're already committed for over 600,000. So basically, the balance of funding available is now for any municipal purpose. And I think that's a game changer, because we now have the situation where we got to consider the totality of municipal uses, and then obviously explain those to the community as we move forward. Specifically, what that may mean for Chelmsford is I think it now opens up areas that were previously not available. Roadway infrastructure, for example, fire apparatus could be a consideration. The funding that the town's going to need to continue to address the ongoing environmental remediation at 54 Richardson Road from the PFAS is another one. And I think given the fact that we only have 3 of the 5 members here this evening, it's probably appropriate that the board not take any action on this evening, further action, and perhaps, I don't know what the guidance would be, and maybe we'll have that in 2 weeks in the board next meet in terms of how do we consider, because I think it does change the calculus in terms of, because we never considered, obviously, when the request went out to the communities and when I considered what requests may be helpful for the town, this is obviously much more broader. I think the other thing I'd like to raise, and I think it's, maybe applicable given, again, the expansion of it, is the issue of premium pay is a notable one. But however, perhaps it may better be considered in part of the town's upcoming collective bargaining with the member units in terms of consideration. As the board is aware, the information that we receive thus far, and it's limited, from other communities, is we're not finding a lot of action out there right now on premium pay for communities that are similar to Chelmsford, either our immediate neighbors or communities similar to us. So I just offer that as introductory remarks to the board's consideration this evening.
Questions?
I think it's a reasonable to delay this until the full board's here.
I do too.
I agree.
I don't think it would be fair to them for us to make decisions.
Does anybody have any questions or clarification comments just on what's in front of us, not from a decision standpoint? So that we can clean any of that type of stuff up before we meet next time. So for example, Paul, when I looked at the premium pay breakout on the last page, the demographics of who the essential workers were, the number of workers came up to the 1,157. So when you rolled up a number in the previous spreadsheet, it looks like you assumed $1,000 per, because it was 1.1 million, right?
Right, exactly. In
Okay.
lieu of anything else, that seemed like something.
And when you I guess that would be, that question should probably wait for the full board. The other question I had on this one is, 34 and 35, I know we had voted on those. Those are up in the funded part, the 12 and the 9K
Yes.
for the Board of Health, the Health Department. But then in the previous version, they were blacked out, which I meant to ask about, but I was wondering if you were assuming you were just paying for those the way that you normally pay for people on leave, or,
I think it was because we had already voted for
You
it.
already voted those, that's why. So we tried to avoid any confusion with the spreadsheet.
well,
And
no,
so
that, I
it's-
don't think
that was
that's
a
why,
fun-
because they weren't included in the total.
I believe they
Because we'd
are.
already voted them.
You already voted those.
Oh, okay.
They're up in the previous
They're up in the
commitment.
previous funding
Okay.
commitment.
And then number 3 was in the previous one, but it dropped off of this one. So if we're tracking things that we are not recommending, I'm just wondering if we should put that back in somewhere.
Right. The reason I omitted it is that it was funded elsewhere and not, it never, yeah, so that's why we,
Okay,
so therefore, I thought putting it somewhere would just cause more confusion. I didn't want it to be double counted. That was funded in the capital budget of the
That's actually in
town.
the capital budget.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just have one question on,
well,
we,
I wasn't done yet.
Oh.
Is it worth putting a note somewhere? Like, I mean, because if this is a document people refer back to, I just don't want to,
Yeah, we can
Keep
put
recreating the
a
wheel.
footnote or something to the fact of number 3 was,
Move to capital budget.
Yeah, okay.
Capital plan.
yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Pat.
on the McKay and the 2 town halls that are deferred, do we know if the CBC is going to be meeting this month? So we can have an answer on that?
Yeah, I've been in active communication, including this afternoon with Linda Prescott, the chair of the Community Preservation Committee. The committee is going to meet on Wednesday, January 19th, which is prior to your next meeting. The preliminary indication that she's received back from the Community Preservation Coalition is she the opinion may be is that it may not qualify for community preservation funds, that it may be seen as maintenance and not capital improvement. So, but that's a determination that'll be made by the Community Preservation Committee at the meeting on the 19th. So the good news
So
is.
we'll have that information
Well,
when
this
we meet
information,
again.
yeah, exactly, and we'll incorporate it into the spreadsheet when you return in 2 weeks.
So when we met last time, we had made a couple of comment notes, like that line item 3 was funded under capital. There was, I think we had made a comment about Varney Park, that potential other funding sources were
Right.
CPC or the earmark. And then there was a set from the senior center where I think John had noted that he had made a note of revolving funds. So I was just wondering, is it possible to just have the comments column so that when we talk about stuff like this, we can capture it? And we're not questioning ourselves every time?
On the printed copy.
It just didn't
It just
print?
didn't, you can only fit so many columns per
Okay.
standard sheet, but on the electronic version that will show on the screen, it will be able to view that, and it will say like CPC with a question mark.
Okay.
It just didn't make it on the,
All right, let me
For the
turn it
space reason.
sideways. And then the other question that I have, Paul, in the last version, it seemed that you and Darlene and John had put a lot of thought into potential recommended, and now like that whole column is blank. Is that because of the final rule that came out, or? So we've kind of like lost that level of thinking that you guys put into it,
I mean,
even though we didn't have time to discuss all of it yet, so.
I removed it and working with John because I just thought it was causing confusion in terms of what had the board approved versus, and now with the final rule, I think, I'd like to sort of reconsider the recommendations.
Okay.
And perhaps, we'll have to discuss with the board how you want to go forward with it, but, do we put out as I mentioned, it's a different calculus, at least in my mind, of how to use these monies now that they're the expanded flexibility of the use. And so I don't know if the board, and that's something you'll have to entertain perhaps at your next meeting, if the board wants to put a new call out to the community and departments in terms of, with the final regulations of their new uses, because I would expect that you would have some different uses, because obviously the current requests were constrained by the preliminary rules, and things such as fire apparatus and even as I mentioned, something like, what we have ahead of us perhaps at Richardson Road, may be worthy of consideration, because now you're really, in an more indirect way, you're dealing with tax dollar substitution, quite frankly, because if whether it's fire apparatus or the environmental cleanup or other items, it's a question of what's ultimately going to be funded, particularly if something is almost mandated or required for public health and safety, such as fire apparatus. And so the question becomes is, well, if you don't fund it here, then you're really pushing it into capital, which is something's going to fall out there, and so forth.
But
So
I think our thinking's changing a little bit, only because this was, when we first looked at this, we were looking at it as under like COVID relief more, but now it's gone broad, so it's not just like what are, like under, under the Relief Act, like for the things that are like COVID related that has to be done for health and safety. Now they've kind of broadened that, but it's not just for, I think Ken said in his last meeting that that's what he was looking at, like these are things that should be done for, that are like what the fund was set
But
up for.
COVID
was-
affected, and now it's turned more into, wasn't maybe as bad as we thought, so help it to improve the towns.
Although, I mean, everything here, I mean, not to, you said you want to kind of avoid debate or deliberation this evening. I mean, all of them have to be done at some point, and they're all, if they're not funded this way, they're going to be funded through sewer rates or water rates or stormwater rates.
I think what Paul's saying is we could have a bigger list of all of the things that
Right.
have to be done at
Exactly.
some point. So I guess the question I have is, are we comfortable having Paul and the financial team look at that before our next meeting, or is that a discussion we should have when the full board is here? Because it's kind of a major change.
Let's play it out, though, it's gonna happen. I mean, you're gonna get
We're going to have
road
$20
repairs
million.
and sidewalks, and
Right.
now you gotta sit there and say, okay, now you-
And my question too is with the infrastructure bill, Paul, what do we expect to see with that in terms of road and sidewalks?
Right.
Do we know anything?
There's no clarity on that. I was on the conference call last week with Congresswoman Laurie Trahan. She had a webinar with, the mayor of Haverhill was on and so forth, and I was on, and a bunch of other managers and local municipal officials, and they're saying they're gonna come out with application information and so forth, but it's just not clear at this time. And the other part is, as we've talked about, we don't know what the state's going to do with the remainder of its COVID and surplus money. So, we're sort of in this, period of evolution, initial funding, then initial rules, now we got final rules, some funding, and just more to come. But I think the thing to keep in mind is, again, we have until December of 2024 to commit these monies, which is why I think, we ought, and I think that's maybe why you're also seeing other communities are not committing all their funds, because it's still a work in motion as we move forward. So, so my sense would be is, in this case, it may be better to exercise caution rather than to make commitments. And the reason I bring these concerns is when the circumstances change, you reassess the situation with the changed circumstances, and some have changed with the flexibility in funding, and as you noted, some may be more to come under other funding sources, which we just don't have clear information on as of today.
What are you thinking?
nobody has anything else, we move on.
Okay.
I mean,
And wait for the full board to have this
yeah,
discussion?
I mean, if Paul, I guess if you want to come back with a general list of what else could be in there, but
Okay, we can come back with some general thoughts, yeah.
it wouldn't be
Yeah.
prudent not to see it,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but some of these, I think different departments are waiting for an answer, so
I know.
I don't think we should, continue meeting every week and
No.
deferring it every week.
No, but I'm just saying is, particularly when there's some items that have multi-year components, that we're looking at, And also some that, you know, they may not survive the list if you start introducing these other items, and I think it's something that has to be considered, because, you know, it's, you know,
Did you find anything out about shopping the HVAC?
not at this point, we don't have an answer on that, no. I mean, I spoke to the superintendent of the schools, informed him that, you know, the funding commitment was there, and that we'll be gathering to work on the HVAC procurement, but we don't have a determination yet in terms of whether it's best to do it in bulk or by individual project.
I know people are waiting, but I mean, we have committed half the money. It's not, and
Right.
yeah, so
Right, I know,
we're making progress.
yeah, we are.
Okay. John and Darlene, do you have anything else with that? Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Stay safe.
Okay, that brings us to item 10, which is the Strategic Planning Services proposal. You want to introduce this, Paul?
Yeah, when the board met with the facilitator, you know, a couple months back now, one of the requests going forward was to obtain a proposal for strategic planning services for the select board and community. And it sort of also touched upon one of the goals of the board, which was sort of question of, you know, development, or i.e., what do we want to become, the strategic planning. And so what you have before you is a detailed proposal to assist the board in its planning operations in terms of, you know, long-term strategic planning for the community in a 3 to 5 year period. And it sort of also follows from the vision and values that that the board approved for the community in terms of how we move forward together in terms of addressing the challenges and core values of the community. And so the proposal is to have the upcoming training and planning sessions that would begin in February outlined as directed there in terms of reviewing the greatest challenges and the obstacles, and then creating a vision of what the town would look like, and you know, coming with a finished product that, you know, identifies specific, you know, they call SMART goals, you know, strategic, measurable, and so forth, goals that you know, can be reduced to writing and clearly articulated and then measured in the future going forward. So the goal would be to, you know, have these training sessions with the board to roll out this at the board level, and then from there, roll it out to the town departments, and then continue to reevaluate successes and challenges in the future.
Questions? Paul, I mean, I thought it was I thought the process that was laid out makes a lot of sense. The one question that I had with it was under the connecting the dots section, item 3, the values exercise, and it sounds like they would start with a fresh list of values. So the only question I would have, I guess, for the board and for Katie is, we went through a year-plus effort
I think we should just give them our values.
with public input, and we have, you know, 8 or 10 values, and I give them that list, and if they want to help, I think the thing that Katie should understand is, when the committee briefed those values back to the select board, they said those were in priority order. So, you know, maybe we revisit the priority, but if they're going to give a list of values, I would think maybe that would be the starting point,
Okay.
since it's been vetted throughout the community already and it was formally adopted.
Okay.
But
Okay.
if she has a different opinion, that's fine too, but I don't know if she's aware of there was a formal process that was behind that. Does anybody have any objection with Paul working with Katie on setting up a meeting to get this started?
Like I said,
I
we're
think she
talking,
said it was going to be at least 2 meetings, right?
and we're talking not before February.
Right.
You
Okay,
need a motion or vote? You don't? Right.
I don't think so.
Okay, no, okay.
Do you,
No, I think
Okay.
the sense of the board was to move forward, okay.
Okay, thank you, Paul. That brings us to town manager reports.
Yeah, just a few quick items to report this evening. The first one is the deadline for citizen petition warrant articles for the 2022 spring annual town meeting. That deadline is the first Monday in January. That date is coming past. We received one petition article from Chris Oak of Joy Street, and the article asked the town select board to investigate with the appropriate time and funds, implementing a school bus tracking system to allow parents to see the status of their child's drop-off time. Town clerk certified this. I have shared it with the schools committee and Dr. Lang. It'll appear on the warrant town meeting, and obviously the presenter would have an opportunity to present to the select board, finance committee, and I believe appropriately the school committee. Dr. Lang and I were not aware of this request coming forward. And also, I don't even know if there may be some concerns regarding a bus tracking system in terms of child safety or what have you. I don't know. I'm just reporting this evening that we did submit one article. This is what it is, and we'll move the process forward. The next item I have is a follow-up from the previous discussion regarding the fitness park that Lisa Maroney, our business development director, has spearheaded. And following up on the comment from Select Board Member LaFave in terms of are there other possible locations, we went out and looked at the area behind the town hall, but now the Chelmsford Center for the Arts, the rear of the parking area. That presented some concerns in terms of topography from the rail trail, as well as some snow storage and other logistical concerns there, and also visibility. And the one suggestion that popped up that I hadn't realized at the time, but as we kept scouring, was not far from here, at the corner of Chelmsford and Wilson Street, about placing it as depicted on Wilson Street, the 38 by 38 foot area. It would not pose any conflict with the softball field use, because that's used by, toddlers and young players of softball, so it does create a safety concern. Also, it does provide the visibility concern which was one of the primary concerns of the grant providers, is that it be in a high visible traffic location, and we're well aware that the section of roadway from the town center to 495 on Chelmsford Street is one of the busier roadways in the community. It also does in close proximity to the rail trail. So we have shared this location with the grant provider, and the response has been favorable. So I just wanted to circle back with this board to see if the board had any concerns or objections or supports this proposed location. What would happen from here is we would move forward with the process, but then also go to the Community Preservation Committee for the balance of the funding that would be required, and therefore would go to town meeting for the town to decide, do they wish to fund this fitness park with the portion of it grant funded and the balance coming from community preservation funds.
I like the spot.
Thank you.
Makes a short left field.
Yeah.
What did you say, Pat?
Makes a short left field
Right.
there for the
That's what I was
softball
just
place.
going to say. Is it far enough out?
It's plenty far off. I mean, the youngsters who use that field don't make it past the infield with any balls, because it's really, as you know, the serious softball activities take place over at Southwell. This is really just done by, toddlers. So, yeah, it would not present a concern.
I mean, I do know those spots over there, the parking spots are always open. You
Yeah.
could tuck it into the parking lot and take the first 4 spots, if that was a concern about the field, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can look at that, or, I just don't want to present any concerns with the parking.
Yep. No, I agree.
It also cause problems for the units.
Well, aren't those parking spots owned by the housing authority?
The park is owned by the town, the other parking is the town. I'd have to check the deed, but it may be the case. Yeah. The
Thank
next
you for
item.
being open-minded and looking.
Thank you. No, thank you for the suggestion, because your thought spurred us to go back and we were over there at the rail trail, then this thing, jumped out and thanked, I think it was Gary Persichetti who sort of came forward with the suggestion, well, what about over there? I think, good idea. The next thing I want to report is just to recognize a donation from the Lowell 5-cent Savings Bank. They donated $4,000 at the end of the last calendar year for the town's public safety first responder purposes. This will enable the fire department to purchase new software for enhanced tracking of fire vehicle maintenance and purchase additional COVID-19 test kits. And then on the police side, it will fund the replacement of automated external defibrillators, replacement medical gear, portable radios, and audiovisual upgrades in the training room. So again, we want to recognize and thank Lowell 5 for their donation to the town's purposes. The next item I have is just the monthly sewer flow report for through December. So we're 6 months through the fiscal year, and the flow right now is moderated in the last 2 months. I mean, December was the least month of flow, but we're still running at a level that is above our permitted level. Right now, we're running at 2.59 million gallons per day. We're permitted for 2.66, so we're again approaching the permit of our requirement. So much like we were in 2019, which was our year, we're running precipitously close to our 2.66 million gallon per day level. So we just, if this continues as it did in 2019, we would finish the year above the 2.66. In 2019, as you can see, at this point in time, we're running at 2.56 million gallons per day. Right now, we're running at 2.59. And you see at the end of 19, we were running at 2.76. Again, it's really going to depend probably, particularly on rain in the spring months. So anyway, I just want to let you know that we are continuing to monitor the sewer flow and also continuing the quest for solutions. The other item I have is regarding Winterfest. I reached out to the Public Health Director, Sue Rosa, as well as the principal host of Winterfest activities in the town, being Becky Herman over at the library, which often hosts Winterfest events, as well as Deb Sirianni at the Senior Center, who hosts the really popular Chowder Fest. The consensus of all of us is that it's just not appropriate, given the current COVID conditions, to hold Winterfest again this year, which normally be the first weekend in February. So the plan at this time is to cancel Winterfest, unfortunately for the second year in a row, and hope that a year from now conditions are better.
Quick question on that. Here we are canceling Winterfest, as we did last year.
Yep.
And last year, we had concerns about a spring town meeting that we moved into June, but yet we're having a town meeting in February. Is there no concern over the February town meeting?
I wouldn't say there's no concern. I think that's...
I mean, I know how vocal our moderator was last year about it.
Yeah.
He really hasn't said much, and I talked to him, and he said, well, it's on the Board of Selectmen. And I don't know, we really haven't had a discussion on how smart it is to have a town meeting on February 23rd.
I mean, I think much like we can see is, we know where we are today on January 10th. I think as we start approaching, if conditions continue to deteriorate as we move into February, then I don't think it would be beyond the realm of discussion or possibility for there to be an action to postpone that meeting to a later date. But
I mean, I know last year in April, we were talking about in January to move the April to June.
yeah,
But yet we haven't discussed a February meeting.
Right.
That's too early, a month sooner.
I mean, it has the whole thing with remote learning and other things. I think the major difference, I think, between this year and a year ago is there's a vaccine and boosters. And I think that's a game changer in terms of why are schools still being held in person, and why, are there not, full mask mandates in a state of emergency by the Commonwealth as it was a year ago.
I mean, I just want to express that I'm concerned, so I think if we get to the beginning of February and things haven't drastically improved, we might want to take it up as a board and discuss it, because it is our decision what to do with it.
Okay.
I'd feel terrible if people got sick after that, and especially the majority of them are seniors, so.
And then the last item I have has to do with the reserve fund transfer request that It really has to do with the boilers at the Byam School and Harrington School. And Gary Perschetti, our Public Works Director, is on the call this evening remotely, and he's going to join us for this discussion. And again, this is an item that I would propose to bring to the Finance Committee at its next meeting, which I believe is scheduled for a week from this Thursday, the 19th. I'm sorry, the 20th. And this has to do with the replacement of the boilers at the Byam and Harrington School during the February vacation week, which is, again, a timely matter. And I'll ask Gary to explain sort of what brings us here and what we're looking at. Good evening, Gary. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Gary Perschetti, DPW Director. I'm here to let you know that at both schools, the Harrington and the Byam, each have 3 boilers in the school. 1 boiler in each one of those schools are marginalized and need to be replaced. The age of the boilers are touching on 18, almost their 19th year, which has got them close to their service ending date. Just to back up a little bit, 22 years ago, when we seeked out to change boilers in the school, we wanted the efficiency, so we went with full condensing modulating boilers that give you 95% efficiency. The issue at the time was there was only a few companies out there that were making them. And because of that, there was not a long history on the life expectancy farm. It was said back then that they would run probably between 20 and 25. And then a few years ago, ECO, which is the one we chose, says in their brochures that they're 15 to 20. So what we'd like to do, or what we're proposing to do, would be to change the plant at the Byam School. So upgrade the 3 boilers to 2 boilers that would be 3 million BTUs each instead of 2 of them at 2 million. And then move one of the 2 good boilers to the Harrington School, leaving us 1 more boiler as a backup as we continue on with this. I think you're also aware that voted through the Finance Committee and going to town meeting is the high school boilers to be replaced, which are the oldest. And that would continue us, so we would have 2 schools already at that point if we get this funding from the Finance Committee. That would be 100% done and committed. Any questions?
Makes sense to me.
I agree.
I think it's good use for not throwing out boilers that are still good, so.
Yep.
Do you need a vote from us?
No, we just wanted you to be aware of it. The Finance Committee will be considering it a week from Thursday, so I just wanted you to be aware of it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
That's my report this evening. I do have one appointment, which is for the Holiday Decorating Committee, a reappointment from John Floria for a 1-year term expiring December 31st, 2022. He just responded late. We didn't make the cutoff at the last meeting, so I asked you to reappoint him with to rejoin the group, the others that you appointed at the last meeting.
So I'll make a motion to approve to appoint John Floria to a 1-year term for the Holiday Decorating Committee expiring 12/31/22.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Okay, so that takes us to meeting minutes. Mark is not here, so I will read the announcement on determination of releasability. The minutes for November 15th, 2021, Segment 1 were reviewed and deemed releasable, and the following minutes were reviewed and deemed not for release. September 13th, 2021, October 25th, 2021, Segments 1, 2, and 3, November 15th, 2021, Segment 2, and November 29th, 2021. That brings us to minutes approvals. Why don't we just do these one at a time in case anybody has any comments?
And so I will make a motion to
I'm sorry, go ahead.
to approve the regular meeting minutes from November 15th, 2021.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any comments on the 29th, November 29th, before the motion is made? Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the Select Board meeting minutes from November 29, 2021.
Second?
Both sets? Are we voting on both?
Say that again?
There's two November
there's the-
29th.
Both regular session, yes.
Oh, are you doing the other one too? Because I do have some.
Do you have edits on the second one?
it's a
Oh,
long
so
one.
just the first set, the prior two.
The open session prior to executive session. We have a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. So the select board regular session minutes for November 29th. Pat, you said you have a comment?
Yeah, just on page 7, it had under my referrals, second one should be congratulations to the Chelmsford football team for its Thanksgiving Day victory. It's not time.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the November 29th, 2021 regular meeting minutes after executive session,
As amended.
as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. And the select board regular session minutes for December 6th. Any comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the December 6th, 2021 regular meeting minutes for the Select Board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. And the tri-board minutes, any comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the joint meeting with the Select Board, Finance Committee, and School Committee meeting minutes from December 13th, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Okay, Paul, next we have the MMA.
Yeah, prior to your next meeting, I believe on the 21st and 22nd of this month, the Mass Municipal Association is be holding its annual meeting in Boston at the Heinz Convention Center. And the latest information I have, as of the end of last week, is that the meeting is still, will take place during this COVID condition. They will be fully adhering to the Commonwealth and City of Boston public health guidelines, meaning that the people have to be showing proof of vaccination to be allowed into the facility, and also there'll be daily testing of attendees, rapid COVID testing of attendees to the meeting. Why this is relevant is that at the meeting, the town has a voting delegate regarding the resolutions that are brought before the Mass Municipal Association for consideration. And so, by definition, the chair of the select board is the voting delegate of the town. Or if the chair is not be attendance, then the board, that can be delegated to another member of the board or I guess another party. So this is sort of an annual request that comes up at this time of the year.
Is anyone planning to be there anyway?
I'm registered.
You registered? I'm fine if we want to give the vote to Pat.
The
Do you
votes
want
are,
it?
the votes are usually quite unanimous.
Yeah.
If not, yeah, so, you know,
Especially
and you have the
this year.
Are you
resolutions, yeah.
planning to go, Ken?
Yeah.
I haven't registered for it yet. I'm 70% of the way going, but, so let's give it to Pat, because she's
Okay,
registered. So I'll make a motion that we make Pat our voting delegate for the 2022 MIAA meeting.
This is.
MMA.
No, this-
MIA.
MMA.
Yeah,
M-
you're ahead of us.
You're on a,
Oh,
Number.
MMA, sorry, MMA meeting.
I'll second.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0.
And then similarly to that is at the Mass Municipal Association annual meeting, the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association has its annual meeting.
Before we do
Go
that,
ahead.
can I just,
Sure.
on the resolution, we usually vote whether the board
sorry,
is going to
yeah.
support there's only one resolution this year, and it's the one that they always do about the partnership between the cities and towns and the Commonwealth. I guess they didn't have time to do any other resolutions in that one. So just, I mean, it's pretty generic, and it's one that, I think it's the same one that we voted on every year.
Yeah.
Do you want to make the motion?
You want me to make them?
If you, I don't know, how do you want me to word it?
Well, just to.
Go ahead, Pat, make a motion.
I'll make a motion then that the board support the annual business meeting resolution as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
All right,
Aye, 3-0.
thank you, Pat.
And then, as I mentioned, at that meeting on Saturday, midday, is the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association, which is a nonprofit subsidiary of the Mass Municipal Association, has its annual members' business meeting, and similarly there's the community has an eligible voting member. Again, that would be the chair of the board, but if not, that can be delegated to another member from the community to vote in the place of the chair.
And you're staying for the whole thing?
Yeah, for both, yeah.
And Ken, are you going, or?
I'm not sure, I hadn't registered yet again.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you want to let Pat be our designee then?
Yep. So I'll make a motion that we appoint Pat Modis as our nominee. Is that the right word?
Our voting
Voting member,
delegate?
eligible voting member.
Eligible voting member for the MIA meeting.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0.
Thank you.
Okay, the next agenda item was the path forward. We set a goal number 8, which I've got up on the screen right now, but it had to do with identifying and implementing ways to improve communications with the residents. I asked Paul to just put together the other document that's in your packet, which it's not a proposal going forward, it captures the ways that we're communicating today. And all I wanted to do was, this is a goal that we had set to work on, I believe this quarter or starting this quarter. So I just wanted to have a discussion about where you want to head with this, or if you want to give what's in the attachment some thought, and then we can talk about it next time. But this was a joint goal with the town manager and the select board to look at improvements in resident communications. I think at one point we had talked about getting input, like public input, but I don't remember where exactly we wanted to go with this. So.
The only thing I think I can add to this is, I understand these are the outlets we use to communicate. I think maybe in part of this goal, it was more what gets communicated. We had received a letter that came to all of us, and
Yeah.
there were some points about, if there's a planning project in town, or if there's it's more about what's going on in town and gets pushed out through these channels, not necessarily what channels we're using.
Well, and the other comment that I got recently, and I think Paul brought this up when we set the goal, actually, this one did have to do with the channel, which was like, we can't rely on the newspapers because all of our residents choose not to pay for those subscriptions. So I agree with you, Ken. I think the what we're communicating is as important, if not more important, than how we're doing it right now. So maybe the first there's 2 questions. Are we connecting with everyone? Do we have the points of connection in place, or are there other ones? And then should we really take a look at what we're communicating? Like, one suggestion that was in that letter that I thought was actually a good one was, even on the website, can we just have a spot where people can go to see the plans for major developments in town without having to find every specific agenda, things like that. So I don't know if we're gonna solve this tonight, but I wanted to ask you how you wanted to approach it.
Well, maybe we approach it as a two-pronged approach of, are there other ways to communicate out to the public to round out this list, or is this the list? And then maybe the second step is to take an experience sort of poll of the board members to find out, what do we get our most calls over? What do we hear the most feedback on? What are people telling us, their biggest concerns are, and say, okay, well, how do we address those on the website or through one of these channels instead of us fielding so much of that, to take that frustration off of it that we're hearing from residents about not knowing and being clued into what's going on. And I mean, to some extent, you only can do so much. You know, I'm blown away at how many times I'm talking to somebody who have no clue what's going on in town.
Right, and no matter what you do, you know, we can do all these things, and something that somebody, I think it might have been Mr. Latino earlier today, that said, you know, we don't do things the way we used to. I don't know what he means by that, how we don't communicate in a way that we used to before. I don't know any way other than, you know, there used to be that quarterly newsletter, which is kind of still comes out from, you know, community education, and there's, I mean, you're never going to get everybody, you know, because the people that, you know, there's some people that, you know, they're proud of the fact that they don't have internet access,
Right.
but they still want to know everything that's going on, and they might not even have a newspaper subscription, and, you know, I don't know how you reach them.
Right. Well, I was joking around over the weekend with someone, and I said, there's like 600 people in town that are clued in.
That are what?
That are clued in. You know, and they said, no, it's probably more like 200.
Well,
So,
I'd say
you know, and that
300,
was the
yeah.
debate, is how many people in town really pay attention to what's going on,
Right.
you know?
I mean, there's a reason why there's no press at these meetings. There's a reason why the newspaper coverage local is so thin, is because, it's a different, the world's different in 2022 than it was in 1982. And when you had the News Weekly, you know, I mean, you'd have multiple stories on every board meeting and project and everything in the town, and it's different. And you're right, but the problem becomes, like you said, the frustration of people that they don't know what, you know, it hits them, you know, unexpectedly, and that's the concern. I think that was the genesis of this goal, is how do we better reach people in the community?
Yeah.
And how do we provide that? You're never gonna, like you said, you're never gonna get perfection, but it's, I think it's something to be considered, because, yeah,
But,
clearly something, you know, it's clearly a frustrating source. I mean, in the short and long term, whether it's something as simple as, gee, the recycling got delayed last Friday because of the snowstorm.
yeah, the perfect
or
example is mattresses.
Mattresses,
How
yeah.
many people on Facebook, right? And now there's a side business has popped up where someone's saying, I'll come around and pick up your mattresses for $40.
Right.
Yeah,
And there was a town mailing, it was
Mailing,
public, it's
right.
public service announcements
Right.
here, there were flyers, there was
like
on the
cringe. I don't know where those
website.
mattresses are gonna go for this guy who's picking them up for $40,
Yeah.
You don't want to know, probably.
you know, so.
One thing that I think is getting better or was fixed that used to drive me batty is when the social media pushes went out, there was no content. It just was a link to the website, there was nothing, no header that said this is what this is about. So I think a lot of that got lost. The other thing, you mentioned newsletters. You know, Paul, you do the monthly newsletter for the senior center news thing. I've always thought that that's something that could easily be just posted as the town manager's monthly newsletter on the website to reach more people. It's, you know,
It's not usually unique to
it's not,
seniors.
it's not full of a ton of detail, but it
Right.
gives
That's
some
the problem.
highlights.
Right.
Um,
But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, you know, you have
And then-
this development that's going before the planning board, you know, Wednesday night, and, you know, there's frustration because people aren't aware of it. And then there's misinformation, which is even, you know, that people think that the town is the sponsor of the project, as if somehow the town is the one who had this great idea, let's put a warehouse on River Neck Road, and.
And I've had people say it's 110 bays, and I've had people say it's 30 bays.
Exactly. And, you know, and so it's, you know, so it is, like you said, there's many layers here, and I think the
And-
effort is
right,
what can we do to help improve
And
awareness.
the other thing we've talked about in the past is like, when do we try to over-communicate, right? People respond to communication different ways. But, you know, there's been situations, I think even, like when we did one of the listening sessions, or when we were looking at the asphalt permit, we said, well, we're not just going to ask abutters, we're going to expand our reach beyond the legal abutters, right? And notify people beyond Lodge Road that we're having this discussion. So I think some of those, even just the mindset of, is there an appropriate time to try to over-communicate when it's something major, maybe something we want to try to formalize or institutionalize a little bit. I'm just thinking out loud. So is this a discussion that we want to have with the full board?
I think so.
give it some more thought.
Yeah.
If the 24th is proving to be packed, because I think you have to present the budget on the 24th too.
31st.
Oh, that's going to be the 31st, okay. I didn't realize we had 3 meetings in January, so, all right. I was just concerned about doing the budget and all this other stuff in one meeting. So can you guys give that some thought and we'll bring it back to the full board? Okay. So we're at liaison reports and referrals. Pat, do you have anything?
Today I have just, we've had recently 3 young men who have become Eagle Scouts, Jake Walsh, Joseph Hooley, and Seth Rigby, so congratulations to all 3 of them, and hoping to see a lot more Eagle Scout ceremonies going forward. We haven't been to one in 2 years.
Yeah, that's great. Ken?
No, I don't really have any liaison reports. I don't know if is it okay to put our condolences out to George Dixon's and his family.
For sure.
Thank you.
Shocking, so.
The only thing I was going to mention is it's come up a couple times this meeting, the public hearing for the River Neck Road development where the former Mercury site is opening this Wednesday evening, and it will be at the Performing Arts Center. It's a 6:30 start, Paul?
I think they pushed it back they pushed it back, right?
Yeah, check the agenda
to-
center,
to-
but
I
it's,
think they pushed it back to 7, I believe, at the high school.
oh, is it pushed for, okay.
Let me just double check that.
Better check. 'cause
Double
it-
check that, yeah, I don't want
Check-
to say
Yeah,
famous
double
words.
check the time, but it's going to be at the Performance Arts Center this Wednesday evening.
Say 6:30.
6:30, yeah, be there at 6:30, so you'll be there plenty of
Get
time.
it, standing room only, get a seat. Is there any press in the Zoom room? I don't know who JL is. Okay, I'm going to assume no. I will take a motion. It's 7:27 PM.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session and to return to open session to discuss dispatchers' collective bargaining agreement and review the executive session meeting minutes from December 13th, 2021, joint meeting with the school committee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote. Pat?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I vote aye. For the public, we're going to leave this room, and Chelmsford Telemedia will keep the cameras rolling, and we'll come back here. PM. We are back in open session. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between the town of Chelmsford and AFS CME Local 1703 Council 93 Dispatchers Union, as presented.
Second?
And this is roll call again.
Does it have to be?
No, it doesn't have to be, it's open
Okay,
session.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
At 7:38 PM, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Thank you, everyone.